What's going on? It's Suk and I'm back with a brand new video on SuperDuprTech. And in today's video, I'll be showing you what it's like to play a handful of games on the M3 Pro MacBook Pro. I've already uploaded a video gaming on the M3 MacBook Pro, so if you want to check out what it's like to play on that model, then be sure to check the links in this video's description. Also, we are on the road to 5,000 subscribers, so if you are new around here, then I must ask you to hit the subscribe button, clicking the bell to be notified of when a new video goes live. But without any further ado, let's hit the titles. So first things first, I do want to briefly gloss over the spec of this MacBook Pro. So as I mentioned, this is the entry model, which means it comes with the M3 Pro system on a chip, which has an 11-core CPU along with a 14-core GPU, a 16-core neural engine, 18GB of unified memory, along with a 512GB SSD. And when it comes to the games, well, with this MacBook Pro, I managed to play Battlefield 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Minecraft, League of Legends, Grand Theft Auto 5, CSGO, Firewatch, Fortnite, Hitman 2, CSGO 2, Cyberpunk, Thief Simulator 2, Watch Dogs Legion, Halo, Overwatch 2, Resident Evil Village, and finally Hogwarts Legacy. Now what you'll notice with these games is that they were played using different methods. So for example, Battlefield 5 was played using Parallels, Shadow of the Tomb Raider was played through macOS using Steam, whereas Resident Evil Village was played on macOS but through the App Store. And there were a number of other games which were played using Crossover and the Game Porting Toolkit. So starting with this display's native resolution at 3024 by 1964 and keeping the graphics settings to high, we can see the games which performed the best here were Minecraft, League of Legends and Fortnite, averaging 96, 92 and 74 frames per second respectively. I also found that games like CSGO, Thief Simulator 2, Halo and Resident Evil Village were also enjoyable at this resolution, although they were nowhere near close to maxing the 120Hz ProMotion display's refresh rate. Hands down, the worst performing games here were unsurprisingly ran through Windows 11 through Parallels. Now, these were Battlefield 5 and Hitman 2. And whilst Overwatch averaged some rather low digit frame rates, Firewatch is a game which hasn't been updated in years and runs natively on the Mac, and surprisingly kind of runs well on this Mac. And by well, 26 frames per second is good compared to the other MacBooks at this resolution. So it's not quite bad compared to other MacBooks, but of course it gets smoked out of the water when compared to other Windows offerings. Hitman 2 averaged 8 frames per second, and whilst in dimly lit scenes it could push up to around 12 frames per second, this game was rendered pretty much unplayable at this resolution. I honestly wouldn't recommend playing any of these games other than Minecraft, League of Legends and maybe Fortnite, although you won't be pushing that 120Hz display to its full capabilities whilst playing these games at this resolution. Therefore, lowering the resolution to 2560 by 1600, which is the same resolution of the 13-inch MacBook Pro, we should see better results. So let's take a look. I lowered to that resolution and well, for some games it really didn't make much of a difference, like Battlefield 5 and Overwatch 2. Battlefield increased its average frame rate up to 19 from 15 frames per second, which is quite disappointing. Overwatch 2 also increased from 13 to 18 frames per second, which was also disappointing. At this resolution, the same 3 games performed the best, and whilst these games were close to saturating the 120Hz display's refresh rate, they weren't, and I'm sure lowering the graphics settings would allow these games to saturate this display's refresh rate, so I once again decided to lower the resolution to 1920 by 1200, and keeping the graphics settings to high, we see that Battlefield 5 has now increased its average frame rate from 19 to 33 frames per second, which is pretty much in line with Cyberpunk, with it averaging 31 frames per second. Minecraft, League of Legends and Resident Evil Village averaged above 100 frames per second, which is great to see. Although I wouldn't play Minecraft and League of Legends at this lower resolution, as other than less strain on the system, you really don't get much more. And I'd prefer playing this game at the higher resolution of 2560 by 1600 over 1920 by 1200. Battlefield 5, GTA 5, Firewatch, Hitman 2, Cyberpunk, Watch Dogs Legion and Overwatch 2 were the games which could not average higher than 60 frames per second, with Hitman 2 being the only game which was struggling to average more than 30 frames per second. It seems to be a recurring theme that Hitman 2 performs the worst across all of these games, which is interesting as I would have imagined that Battlefield 5 would be a much more intense game to play on this machine, especially given that it too, like Hitman, is being played through Parallels. And if you're wondering, I did try to play Hitman 2 through the game porting toolkit and crossover, but I had no luck. So at this current time, I'll continue to play this game using Parallels. But hey, it's great to see that we can now play these other titles using the game porting toolkit, which we've previously not been able to. And I can only imagine that if these games had full access to the hardware of the machine, that they would undoubtedly perform even better. And by performance, I'm not even talking about an increase in its frame rate, I'm talking about potentially an increase in battery life as it's got access to more of the hardware. But hey, when it comes to games like Hitman 2, any improvement is going to be good. I did want to see how this MacBook Pro would perform once the resolution was once again reduced further to 1200 by 800, keeping to high graphics settings. We can see that other than Battlefield 5, Cyberpunk and Overwatch 2, that all games averaged above 60 frames per second. Yeah, even Hitman 2 surprisingly. So whilst we struggled to average 60 frames per second playing Resident Evil Village at native resolution, I would still recommend playing at this resolution as I like the increase in detail when playing these story based games. And it's not an overly fast paced game which demands more frames. And when it comes to other games, I would suggest playing around with the resolution and the graphic settings, as you may want to lower or increase the resolution or graphic settings just to get a higher frame rate. So there you have it. When it comes to it, this machine is quite capable when it comes to playing games, although some titles you might want to taper your expectations. So if you'd like to see what it's like playing games on the 14-inch M3 MacBook Pro or the M3 Pro MacBook Pro, which has the 12-core CPU and the 18-core GPU, then be sure to check out the links down below in this video's description or check out the cards in the top right of this video. Be sure to subscribe and follow me on my social media, links to which can be found down below in the video's description. Once again, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next time. Take care and have a good one.